Welcome back, viewers, to the latest researches and news today. We have 4 developments that reveal exactly how close this war has come. First of all, we will update you about, for the first time, the Ethiopian military has officially admitted that war is ongoing in the Amhara region. Lieutenant General Mohammed Tesema has spoken. What his statement actually means. Secondly, about the Ethiopian National Defense Force has now lost a second strategic operation, this one in North Wollo, aimed at cutting the connection between Fano and Tigray Defense Force. The supply line operation is failing. After that, about Gojam Fano formally establishes its zonal command structure. The resistance continues to organize. But cracks remain in Gondar. And in last, about Tigray People Liberation Front is deploying air defense systems. Heavy vehicles moving equipment from one location to another. Installation at multiple sites. The sky over Tigray is being prepared for war. Let us start with the admission that Addis Ababa has avoided making for 3 years. Lieutenant General Mohammed Tesema, commander of the Eastern Ethiopian Army, has issued a statement that, for the first time, formally acknowledges active war in the Amhara region. He is one of the senior commanders directly overseeing operations in Gojam and surrounding areas. His statement claims success against Amhara Fano forces. But here is what matters more than the claim of success, the acknowledgement itself. For 3 years, the Ethiopian federal government has refused to describe what is happening in Amhara as a war. It called it a security operation, a law enforcement mission, a campaign against anti-peace elements, every possible euphemism to avoid using the word that the people living through it have always known applied. Now a senior army commander has used the word war. Why now? Because the scale of the conflict, the scale of the casualties, and the scale of the military deployments can no longer be disguised as anything else. When you are flying unscheduled Ethiopian Airlines flights to reposition your Eastern Command. When you are clearing 30-kilometer corridors to secure supply lines. When your soldiers are being transported from battlefields in multiple military vehicles after engagements with Fano, you are in a war. Birhanu Jula's graduation speech about Ethiopia's enemies. Mohammed Tesema's operational statement about Gojam. These are not coincidences. The Ethiopian military is in a communications phase preparing the public narrative for what it believes is coming next. A larger, more open conflict. The resistance Fano and Tigray People Liberation Front heard this acknowledgement, and they have their own answer to it, not in words, in the operations we are about to describe. Now to what is arguably the most strategically significant story of the week. The Ethiopian National Defense Force has launched a second major preemptive operation, this one in North Wollo zone of the Amhara region. And it is failing to achieve its objectives. To understand why this operation matters, you need to understand the geography. North Wollo is the connection point. It is where the Amhara resistance and Tigrayan forces can physically link up. Southern Tigray, including Wag-Hemra zone, shares a direct border with North Wollo. This means Fano fighters and Tigray Defense Force units can meet, coordinate, resupply, and reinforce each other through this corridor. For the Ethiopian National Defense Force, this corridor is a nightmare. If Fano and Tigray Defense Force can freely connect through North Wollo, their combined operational reach becomes far greater than either force alone. The resistance becomes one continuous front from Tigray in the north through Wollo into the heart of Amhara. The Ethiopian National Defense Force's second operation is aimed at breaking that connection. Specifically, It is targeting a roughly 30-kilometer stretch of territory to the south of the Tigray-Amhara border along and around the Wollo to Kobo road. Why is this road specifically targeted? Because it is a critical supply artery. The Ethiopian National Defense Force plans to use this road running from Wollo toward Kobo, connecting to the Afar region as a key supply line in case of full-scale war. Supplies from Afar into Amhara. Reinforcements moving north. If the resistance controls the territory flanking this road, the supply line is vulnerable. So the Ethiopian National Defense Force is trying to clear the area between Kobo Robit, and Eradom, to push Fano and Tigray Defense Force linked forces away from the road to secure the corridor. But here is the problem. To the east of this road lies mountainous terrain. Terrain that favors defenders. Terrain that Fano fighters know. Terrain that resists the kind of mechanized operations that give the Ethiopian National Defense Force its conventional advantage. The operation is ongoing. Fighting continues. And critically, the Ethiopian National Defense Force has not achieved control of the surrounding high ground. The road may be partially accessible, but the flanks are not secured. Compare this to the first strategic operation in the Chalk Mountain Range in Gojjam. There, the Ethiopian National Defense Force achieved its initial objective. It took control of the mountain range and cleared Fano from key positions. But even there, Fano is already attempting to retake those positions. The question is whether the Ethiopian National Defense Force can hold what it has taken under sustained resistance pressure. First operation, initial objective achieved, but under challenge. Second operation, failing to achieve its objectives against Fano Tigray Defense Force resistance. The Ethiopian National Defense Force is making preemptive moves, but the resistance is not giving ground easily. And the strategic picture tells you something important. The Ethiopian National Defense Force is not launching these operations because it is confident. It is launching them because it is afraid of what the Fano Tigray Defense Force link will mean in the war it knows is coming. Now a quick but important update on the organizational development inside the resistance. Gojjam Fano has formally established its zonal command structure. The announcement was made by Asat Murray, Demte Fano's public relations chief. Under the newly established structure, Tafari Wondimu will lead Fano in Gojjam, with Kobe's Getachew serving as deputy. Additional commanders have been assigned specific portfolios covering military strategy, logistics, political affairs, and public engagement. This is significant. Gojjam is the most strategically active Fano zone right now, the zone where the Ethiopian National Defense Force launched its first major preemptive operation, where the Chalk Mountain fighting occurred, where the Dembeke Zuria battles are ongoing. Having a clear formal command structure in place means operational decisions can be made faster, coordination improves, and accountability within the organization strengthens. Shawa Fano has its structure. Gojjam now has its structure. Gonda established its joint leadership framework. But Gonda remains the concern. Two senior Gonda Fano commanders, Masafent and Hab there all day, were conspicuously absent from the Gonda unification process. Masafent is not part of the 13-member Central Committee established to administer the entire Amhara resistance. Hab was not present when the Gonda zonal structure was announced. When major Fano commanders are absent from the establishment of the structure that is supposed to represent them, it is not an organizational oversight. It is a political signal. Gonda Fano's joint 3-month leadership arrangement between Bekanau and Johannes Negusi may represent an agreement on paper. But if key commanders are outside the structure, the unity is incomplete. And incomplete unity in a war zone is a vulnerability that the enemy will look to exploit. The resistance is organizing. It is stronger than it has ever been. But Gondar remains the unfinished piece. And in the war that is coming, unfinished pieces matter. And now to the development that may be the clearest sign yet that both sides believe full-scale war is imminent. The Tigray People Liberation Front has been focusing significant attention and resources on air defense capability ahead of the expected conflict. We have received videos showing air defense systems being transported by heavy military vehicles moved from one location to another across Tigray, and more critically being installed at multiple sites across the region. This is deliberate, systematic, and strategically rational. Here is why air defense matters so much in this specific conflict. During the 2020-2022 Tigray War, the Ethiopian Air Force and drone assets caused devastating casualties among Tigray Defense Force forces. Drone strikes targeted convoys. Air strikes hit positions. The Ethiopian National Defense Forces air advantage was one of the key factors that inflicted serious damage on Tigrayan forces during that conflict. The Tigray People Liberation Front learned from that experience. Debretsion himself referenced in a speech some months ago that Tigray now has the capability to defend against drone threats in ways it did not have in 2020. The air defense installations being moved into position now are the physical evidence of that climb. Multiple sites, heavy equipment, systematic deployment across different locations. This tells us several things simultaneously. First, the Tigray People Liberation Front is preparing for an air campaign. It expects the Ethiopian National Defense Force to use its air force and drones aggressively when the conflict escalates, and it intends to contest that air advantage in ways that were not possible before. Second, the Tigray People Liberation Front has acquired this capability. It did not have functional air defense in 2020. It has been building it since. The Semdo alliance with Eritrea, which has its own air defense experience, has likely contributed to this development. Third, the installations are happening now, not months ago. Now, the timing aligns with everything else we have reported tonight. The Ethiopian National Defense Forces preemptive operations, the organizational build-up across funnel zones, the Tigray Defense Force blackout on movement information, the weapons shipments tracked arriving in Eritrea. Everything is moving at once. On both sides, when you see air defense systems being installed in a region where war has been declared imminent by both sides' own leaders, you are not watching preparation for a conflict that might happen. You are watching preparation for a conflict that both sides believe will happen. Let us bring tonight's full picture together. The Ethiopian military has admitted what everyone already knew: there is a war in Amhara. A senior commander has spoken it publicly for the first time. The Ethiopian National Defense Forces' second strategic operation, aimed at cutting the Fano-Tigray Defense Force connection in North Wollo, is failing to achieve its objectives. The resistance is holding the ground that matters. Across Amhara Gojam Fano has organized its command structure. The resistance is becoming more administratively complete. Gondar remains the unresolved piece. And in Tigray, the Tigray People Liberation Front is deploying air defense systems, heavy vehicles, multiple installation sites. The sky is being prepared for what is coming. Both sides have made their assessments. Both sides are making their final moves. We will keep watching every one of them. Like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an update.